Do you remember the sound? Not the roar of the crowd, not the referee's whistle. The sound of tearing open a fresh Panini sticker pack. For a few magical weeks every 4 years, playgrounds transformed into trading floors. Every kid seemed to carry a stack of duplicate stickers held together with a rubber band. Someone was always asking, "Oh, need number 187?" while another kid proudly showed off the shiny badge they'd finally pulled after what felt like hundreds of packs. Completing a World Cup sticker album wasn't just collecting. Oh no, it became an obsession. But the stickers were only part of the story. You see, every World Cup in the 90s unleashed an avalanche of collectibles. Plastic footballers, Coca-Cola cups, tournament magazines, mascot toys, pencil toppers, promotional giveaways, you name it, and most of them weren't considered valuable. They were played with, of course, they were traded, stuffed into drawers, and then eventually just thrown away. But today, those forgotten pieces have become tiny time capsules from one of football's greatest eras. So, let's open the box, shall we, and rediscover the World Cup collectibles that millions of us owned, and almost everyone forgot. Of course, no collectible defined the World Cup quite like the Panini sticker album. It didn't matter whether your first tournament was Italia 90, USA 94, or France 98. Every generation had its own album, but the ritual was always exactly the same. You'd beg your parents for one more packet at the grocery store, tear it open before you even got back to the car, and hope against hope that this was finally the pack containing the sticker you needed. And the real excitement wasn't even opening them, it was trading them. And playgrounds became the marketplaces. Every duplicate suddenly had value, and kids developed their own little economies. Some would trade shiny stickers only for other shinies. Others would happily hand over 3 common players for the one badge they needed to finish a page. There was no internet pricing guide. There were no apps telling you what something was worth. Everything just came down to negotiation. And for many fans, the gold standard was Panini's Italia 90 album. It perfectly captured one of football's most memorable tournaments. Roberto Baggio's famous ponytail, Diego Maradona playing his final World Cup, Lothar Matthäus leading West Germany to the trophy, and of course Italy's surprise hero Salvatore Schillaci, whose sticker suddenly became one of the most wanted in every single schoolyard. Now back then, nobody imagined these albums would someday become collectibles. They were meant to be completed, carried around in backpacks and stuffed into desks. Pages got ripped during trades, covers got bent, drinks spilled across all of them, and when kids grew up, most albums ended up in the trash. But that's exactly why complete copies are so rare today. You see, after Italia 90 came USA 94, and that's when everything changed. Football suddenly felt bigger. It felt louder and far more commercial. The tournament exploded with bright colours, oversized logos, and bold marketing that perfectly matched the style of the mid-90s. And of course, collecting changed as well. Panini remained the king, but suddenly there were collector cards from Upper Deck, official souvenir programs, 1990s World Cup tournament pins, promotional giveaways, and enough Coca-Cola merchandise to fill an entire kitchen. And those collector cups seemed to be absolutely everywhere. Every fast food restaurant, every convenience store, every supermarket promotion seemed tied to the World Cup. And at the time, they were just something you drank soda from before just tossing them into a cabinet. But 30 years later, people are hunting them down on collector sites. Even the jerseys became collectibles. Italy's Diadora kit, Germany's geometric Adidas sign, the unforgettable United States jersey that somehow looked like someone had turned denim into football fashion. And back then, they were just shirts you wore outside until they faded in the sun. But today, they're prized pieces of football history. And the players themselves also became icons of collecting. Romario, Bebeto, Roberto Baggio, Hristo Stoichkov, Alexi Lalas with his bright red beard and unmistakable hair practically looked like he was designed to become a collectible figure. But looking back, it's incredible how much of this merchandise only existed for one summer before disappearing almost completely. Once the sticker packs were opened, another obsession took over: the toys. Now, one of the strangest forgotten World Cup collectibles was Italia 90's mascot, Ciao. And at the time, he seemed to be everywhere. He was a colourful stick figure built from blocks wearing the Italian flag with a football for a head. There were plush toys, plastic figures, keychains, and countless little souvenirs featuring him. And then, almost overnight, he vanished. Now, ask someone under 30 who Chow was today, and chances are they'll have absolutely no idea. But perhaps the greatest football collectibles of the entire decade weren't official World Cup products at all. They were Corinthian figures. And if you grew up in the mid-90s, you probably remember standing in Woolworths staring at rows and rows of those tiny footballers sealed inside blister packs. Now, they weren't perfect. The heads were far too big, the faces barely resembled the players at all, but none of that, of course, mattered. You could finally recreate World Cup matches on your bedroom floor. Alan Shearer could score against Roberto Baggio, Ronaldo could race against Paolo Maldini. Your own World Cup tournament could happen every afternoon after school. That's why so few remain unopened today. You see, kids didn't buy Corinthian figures to collect, they bought them to play. Packaging was ripped apart before anyone even got home, and the same fate awaited countless other forgotten football toys. Mini table football games, mascot keychains, promotional pencil toppers hidden inside cereal boxes, cheap plastic whistles, inflatable footballs given away by supermarkets. They were never meant to survive, and because they weren't valuable, nobody thought twice before throwing them away. And interestingly, some of the rarest World Cup memories weren't toys at all. They were paper. You see, long before smartphones, YouTube highlights, or social media, football magazines were how fans followed the tournament. Yes, titles like Match, Shoot, and 90 Minutes became essential reading every week. Inside were tournament guides, pull-out wall charts, giant player posters, and predictions that seemed incredibly important at the time. Those magazines rarely survived, and once the tournament ended, they were replaced by the next issue, of course. The posters came down, the pages yellowed, and eventually they just disappeared. And the same thing happened to official match programs, ticket stubs, fixture guides, even restaurant placemats printed with tournament schedules. Nobody saved them because nobody imagined they'd ever matter again. And perhaps the most overlooked collectibles of all are the ticket stubs themselves. Now today, most sporting events live inside your phone. Your ticket disappears the moment you scan it. But in the 90s, every ticket was something you could hold onto. Imagine still owning a ticket from the 1994 World Cup final between Brazil and Italy, or one from the match where Roberto Baggio's penalty sailed over the crossbar, or perhaps a ticket from France '98 when a teenage Michael Owen announced himself to the world. They're not just pieces of paper anymore, they're proof you witnessed history. Even video games became accidental collectibles. Everyone remembers playing them. Very few remember keeping the boxes. World Cup USA '94, World Cup '98. The cartridges often survived, the cardboard packaging almost never did. At the time, boxes were just something standing between you and the game inside. Nobody imagined collectors would someday pay hundreds of dollars simply because someone resisted throwing away a piece of cardboard. But looking back, that's really the story behind all of these forgotten collectibles. None of them were designed to become valuable. They weren't marketed as investments. They weren't sealed inside protective cases. They were made to be enjoyed. Sticker albums were passed around classrooms until the corners curled. Football shirts were worn until the numbers peeled away. Plastic figures lost their heads during imaginary matches. Magazines were covered with pencil marks predicting tournament winners. Everything carried signs that it had actually been loved. And maybe that's why finding one today feels so special. You see, you're not just discovering an old object, you're rediscovering a moment. A summer afternoon spent trading stickers, watching highlights after dinner, arguing over who deserved the golden boot, running outside pretending to be Baggio, Ronaldo, Shearer, or Zidane. These collectibles remind us that football wasn't just something we watched every 4 years. For a few magical weeks, it became part of everyday life. The World Cup didn't end when the final whistle blew. It continued in our bedrooms, our playgrounds, and our imaginations through every sticker, every figure, every magazine, and every little piece of plastic that somehow survived. And that's why these forgotten collectibles still matter. Not because they're worth money, because they're worth memories.